really like that stuff. Depth, tactics, 85 always good.
Welcome to New Stripe City, a podcast for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie, and on today we have a special announcement. A couple of weeks ago, I had my friend on G, and she was very good. You guys really enjoyed her, so we made the decision to have her come on as my permanent co-host. So we're glad to have G on. We loved her perspective. She knows her stuff, and we're glad to have you. So welcome to New Stripe City, G.
I am excited to be a co-host. I really enjoyed talking a few weeks ago, and I'm so happy to continue to do this. This is awesome.
So as you guys already know, subscribe on YouTube. We're in the iTunes store. Make sure you guys share and like and comment. We love to hear from you guys and hear your insight and your feedback. You can also go onto our website and submit questions there. We had some last week, and we actually got some new ones this week. So you can go to the newstripecity.com website, check us out there. You can also check G's material out at gknowsfootball.com. She has some pretty good stuff there as well. There's some Bengals stuff, but there's something for everybody. So any women that are trying to learn football, or, you know, if you're looking at insight from other teams around the NFL, you can check her stuff out there as well. So with that being said, we have a preseason schedule that was released, G. So we know that we have to play against Tampa Bay, Kansas City, the Washington Redskins, and the Indianapolis Colts. What are your thoughts on that game? I mean, it's the preseason, so they don't really matter, but what do you think of the teams that we're going to be facing in this upcoming preseason?
Well, I definitely think the best team out of the bunch is going to be Kansas City. Just because I just feel like it's a good team. They're not really losing too many people. And Andy Reid's a great coach. He's always going to put a good team on the field. An interesting team I'm really interested in seeing them play is Tampa Bay, because now they got Deshaun Jackson. I'm really interested to see how that connection with Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, and their quarterback, because I can't think of his name right now. It's just
Jameis Winston.
Jameis, yeah. I'm really excited to see how they're going to play. So that one's going to be interesting. And also Indianapolis, because Andrew Luck's hurt. Right. So who's the quarterback? How's that team going to look? And then we're at Washington Redskins. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion about that.
Right. I totally agree with you. Tampa Bay is definitely a team somewhat on the come up. You look at that division over there, and it seems like they're pretty loaded. You look at the Saints, you look at the Carolina Panthers, who had an offseason but should bounce back next year. You look at the Falcons. Obviously, they just went to the Super Bowl. But, you know, Jameis and those guys are on the come up. Like you said, they went out and signed Deshaun Jackson, who should be an asset, especially across from Mike Williams, because, I mean, not Mike Williams, but Mike Evans. But he's never had anyone across from him that was a viable threat. So that's definitely interesting. Jameis definitely has to take a step forward. When you look at their progression within the last couple of years, they seem to keep getting better and better. I believe last season they were 9-7. So that's definitely, I guess, a pretty decent measurement of how each team would be doing. Being that it's the first preseason game, I would expect that we'll probably see like our first team offense and defense probably for only a couple of series. So that's the only thing about it that sucks. I really wish we could swap that in the Indy game, because technically, like you said, Andrew Luck's not going to be there. But looking at Washington, they had a lot of turnover this offseason. I think the fact that Jay Gruden is there, we could see a similar situation to, I believe, what the Bengals did either last year or the year before, where Mike Zimmer actually held a joint practice with the Bengals. So I will be interested to see if they do that this year. But I'm kind of upset with Washington in general, just because of that tie game that we had with them last year. I was I was upset because I was just watching that. But we actually let Kirk Cousins throw for like 400 to 500 yards in that game. But, you know, they lost Deshaun, so it'll be interesting to see how we go and match up against Terrell Pryor, who kind of had a little bit of beef with Pac-Man last year. And for the most part, the rest of the guys that they had there are still there. So it should be a pretty decent matchup. Kansas City, like you said, I totally agree. They're one of the most balanced teams in the NFL. We'll have to wait until the draft comes to see if they will take a quarterback. I'm not sure if they will or not. I mean, a lot of people hate on Alex Smith.
They do. He gets the job done.
Yeah, he gets the job done. I really don't understand it, but we'll see. But from a defensive perspective, you look at their team. They have Eric Berry, Justin Houston, so definitely a good indicator of how we'll do this year. Indianapolis, it seems like every year we have Indy like at the end. I think that's just like some kind of travel. It just must make it easier for us to travel back and forth with them.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too, because like Indianapolis always pops in there like at the end. But I don't know. There's so many holes and so many questions about Indianapolis. Like I don't know. Like I really don't know. And I feel like them as a team, they probably feel the same way. Like, what are we doing? What are we going to do?
Right, exactly. I think they have like a new GM, so it's going to be interesting to see which way they go. They have Marcus Hunt, which I don't know what they were thinking when they signed him, but
you got it, guys.
Right, exactly. So
and their head coach, like this is a critical year for him. Was Chuck Pagano? Like if he doesn't produce this year, I think he's out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he hasn't. To be honest, it's just kind of weird that they didn't end up keeping Bruce Arians because, I mean, I know that Pagano was going through the whole chemo thing, but, you know, that's how Bruce Arians kind of curtailed that season with them into that Cardinals job. So it was kind of weird not to see him, you know, stick around there or be promoted. So, yeah, like you said, Pagano is definitely on the hot seat going into this year, especially with Andrew Luck being hurt early. It seems like the past couple of years, Andrew Luck has always been hurt. So hopefully they'll get somebody to protect him, or else our defense is going to have a field day even in the preseason.
I don't even know who their backup quarterback is, but I just feel like, it's not going to be a good situation for Indiana.
Right. It's not going to be a good measurement for us. So moving on, we're going to our fan questions. And the first one we have is from Solomon, and he says, "Hello, Ace. I wanted to know your thoughts on the Bengals secondary. It seems to be an under-the-radar topic in the Bengals community, but I'm excited for it with the young guys ready to compete like Darren Smith, Ben Wickery, Kivari Russell, William Jackson III, and Josh Shaw." I'll give my thoughts first, G, and then I'll let you go on the secondary.
All right, cool.
I would say that the Bengals secondary is pretty interesting going into this year. We had the whole situation with Adam Jones, but obviously it seems like we're going to stick by him. But if he does face any kind of punishment during the regular season, I could see them trying to throw in a William Jackson III to try to get him some more snaps. But with Darqueze Dennard in the mix, it could be him as well since he's going into a contract year. Deron Smith, I would probably say is a guy to watch because George Iloka, I believe, had shoulder surgery this offseason. I've always liked Deron Smith. He seems like he's a pretty good cover safety. He's always around the ball. He can have interceptions here and there. I think he could kind of add a little bit of that Reggie Nelson, element that we kind of missed last year in terms of turnovers. But I think that he could somewhat compete, but I'm not sure. It depends on where the Bengals kind of go in this draft. They also signed Ben Wickery, which Solomon also alluded to. And I've heard that he had a couple of teams that he was choosing between and chose the Bengals. And the only thing that kind of puts me off from the guy, and I'm not going to try to put the full blame on him, but was that Julio Jones game where he went off for 300 yards. He was guarding him. So, I don't know how that's don't know how that's going to go. But Kivari Russell, he was a guy that we claimed last year, and I think that he had an interception at the end of the year, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see what he can do. And Josh Shaw played pretty good in the slot, and they've moved him between the outside corner, the slot, and they've also played him at safety. So I think that the Bengals secondary can be very strong. G, what are your thoughts on our secondary?
I think our secondary is strong. I really just want to go ahead and get rid of Pac-Man Jones and just get ready for this new generation of cornerbacks and safeties. They're young. Now at this point, Dre Kirkpatrick is kind of like a senior veteran on the secondary. And I personally, when Dre Kirkpatrick is healthy, I really like him. And I think these additions, because they're young, I think they're all talented. I think we can start rebuilding that secondary, but I think it starts with getting rid of Pac-Man Jones. Unfortunately, I think it's time to let him go. I think we picked up some great talent in the cornerback position on both sides, left and right, and I think we can just go ahead and get rid of him and let these young guys start playing. I mean, if we get them out there early, by mid-season, end of the season, I think things will really start clicking for them, and secondary is going to be nice. It's going to match the line that I think is about to be real nice too. So I am, like Solomon said, I'm really excited about the secondary this year.
I totally agree with you. You hit the nail on the head with Pac-Man. It's almost like Pac-Man is, in a sense, in the way of the younger corners. So it's like, you can't just throw William Jackson III on special teams when you spend a first-round pick on him, or you're going to have a repeat of what happened with Drake Kirkpatrick when Terrence Newman was here, and what's happening to Darqueze Dennard now. We can't even get him on the field. So he's been here for almost 3-4 seasons, and we haven't even seen the guy. So I totally agree with you. Removing Adam Jones from the equation could end up being a positive for the secondary. So with that said, we'll go on to the second question, and it's from Chase. And Chase asks, if the Bengals trade AJ McCarron, should they draft the Ole Miss quarterback Chad Kelly? G, what's your thoughts on that?
I think Chad Kelly is a decent quarterback. The only thing that concerns me about Chad Kelly is the off-the-field issues. It's kind of like we're going down that same path. I know we're known for picking up these players who have this trouble pass and giving them a second chance. And I mean, that's cool and everything. But do we want to continue to go that route, or do we want to completely, change who we are, like the whole culture thing? Like, I think we need to walk away from it. He has some interesting off-field issues, and it's not even just like, he's doing something like he got caught with like marijuana or something. He's doing some interesting things off-field that's kind of concerning. And though he plays well, I don't know if he's worth it. I don't know if that's who our backup quarterback should be. And quite frankly, I think AJ McCarron, he should stay in Cincinnati. Why go to Cleveland or look at that? So they don't have an offensive line. You're going to get killed. I would sit back, stay where you are, be a great backup because I don't think that Cleveland is a better option for you. And I don't think Chad Kelly is the best option for us. Not saying that, there aren't any valuable quarterbacks in the draft that we could pick up. Yeah, I think we could, but I don't think Chad Kelly is it for us.
Right, and I totally agree with you. Chad Kelly, he has a talent, but the personality thing just kind of scares me away a little bit. Like you said, he has some certain things that he's involved with off the field that just kind of cause concerns. And I actually was listening to, I believe, the Move the Sticks podcast on the NFL Network, and they were talking about how one of the scouts was basically comparing him to Johnny Manziel in terms of the feedback that he heard from players and coaches. So he said from like the younger players, they all loved him, but from the coaching standpoint, the coaches were kind of worried about him. So yeah, I don't think it's really worth.
Wasn't he asked to leave? Like he had to leave Clemson's team, didn't he?
Right, he had to leave Clemson, and then he went to like a JUCO, and then like you said, it's just too many issues there. And then he also is hurt, I believe, as well. So he wouldn't even be able to play this year. So I think, and I also kind of agree with you with McCarron. Trading him to Cleveland, I don't think would be in our best interest because you're trading them to a team in the division and you're making them better in a sense. So why would you make someone within your division better than they were last year? I mean, you're scrambling right now to find a quarterback. Why would you help them out? I mean, unless it's a deal or offer that they can't refuse, which is like a first-round pick or something for the guy, why not keep him here and, just wait until this season plays out, because you never know what's going to happen with Andy Dalton. I mean, for the most part, he stayed healthy, but we saw him go down in 2015, and although the offense wasn't the same, we didn't lose much with McCarron in there. So he's a strong asset to have, because when you go back to the days where we had guys like Anthony Wright and Gus Farrat and guys that were just horrible, when you injure that quarterback that's the starter, you end up taking a huge drop off from your team. So I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, like AJ, stay where you are. And Chad Kelly, stay where you are as well too.
Right. Okay, so moving on, we'll go into the NFL draft. So I know I spoke, and you weren't here last week, G, but I spoke a little bit about some of the pre-draft visits that we had. Mm-hmm. But I want to get your perspective, and then we've also had a couple of additional players visit as well. So just running down the list for those who don't know, we had some draft visits with Dalvin Cook, Reuben Foster, Leonard Fournette, Garrett Bowles, Cam Robinson, Garyon Conley, Jamal Adams, and I almost forgot to include this guy, John Ross. I don't know how I almost missed that one. But with those visits, G, are there any of those players that you could see coming in or being in serious consideration for that 9th pick?
I like Dalvin Cook. I like him as a running back. I like Giovanni Bernard. I like Jeremy Hill. But I think we need now this power running back. We need to. I don't like the switching back and forth that we've been doing with Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard. Like, let's get that every down back, and I think that's Dalvin Cook. Gotcha. I mean, I like Leonard Fournette, but it's something about Dalvin Cook that stands out to me. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's something about him. And I like Reuben Foster, but I think the addition to the linebackers that we've already got, I don't know if we need him. Like, I don't know if linebacker is a position that we really need right now. But I also love that we're looking at Mr. Ross. Let's
John Ross, yeah, for sure.
Let's keep looking at John Ross. I like him, but I think I like Dalvin Cook as number 9.
Right. I mean, I was on here last week. It's funny that you mentioned that. I was campaigning for the guy last week because I watched him, and like you said, he's just explosive. When you just watch the guy play, there's just something special about him. And I feel that he would add a dynamic that we don't really have here. And to me, he's almost kind of like a mix between Jeremy Hill and Gio. Yeah. Like he's more of a balance because he's not as small as Gio, but he's not as big as Hill. He's like kind of in the middle at, I think he's like 215 or something like that. And I feel like he would complement this offense a lot better when you talk about having a guy like AJ Green out there. And, you know, when you're running a play action with Jeremy Hill, I mean, nobody's really going to bite on that because Jeremy Hill isn't really a home run hitter threat. So, I mean, you can pretty much play the Bengals the way that you really want to when Hill is in the game. Plus, I think if you do pick Dalvin Cook, you can spell him with Hill. So until Gio gets back, I think that you can kind of use those two guys together. Leonard Fournette, I agree with you. It's just, to me, I'm not exactly sure how his game will translate to the next level.
That's what it is.
Yeah, like you look at his game, I think, against Alabama, and he's never really had a good game against Alabama. And to me, I kind of take that with a grain of salt because Alabama, technically, to me, when I'm just going through and looking at guys, that's like a measurement tool that I look at because it's almost kind of like the NFL, the junior NFL, how these guys are going to play because every NFL defense is going to be super talented. So the fact that he kind of struggled with them kind of concerns me. He doesn't really do much other than run. He's almost kind of like – people compare him to AP. I don't think that he's as good. But when you look at how AP is used now in today's game, that it's a passing game, he's really just a two-down running back. Like, you can't even bring him in on third down to pass block or do anything. He doesn't add anything to the passing game. And I kind of feel like that's what Leonard Fournette would do. So it's like, why would you just, in a sense, grab Jeremy Hill again with less, like, pass blocking and receiving skills? It just doesn't make sense. And I really do not like Garrett Bowles. Even though our line wasn't great last year, I would not want to see them pick Garrett Bowles or Cam Robinson because it just would seem like a wasted pick. I mean, when you're picking number 9, it has to be a guy that's going to make an instant impact like we saw with AJ Green when we picked him at number 4. So I really don't like those guys. Garyon Conley, the corner from Ohio State, we don't need another corner. I mean, we were just talking about cutting Pac-Man Jones just to get some other guys on the field. Right. John Ross is interesting, like you said, but the only thing that kind of pushes me away from John Ross is just the injury history. The guy had like 2 major knee injuries in college. He also has a shoulder injury, and I mean, we're a team that already has guys like Tyler Eifert and you know, I love Gio, but he's almost in a sense becoming somewhat injury prone too. So we need to have a guy that at 9 is actually going to be able to stay on the field. So that's the last thing that I would want is for us to pick John Ross and then he ends up getting hurt. Yeah, he would be super explosive, but it's just
also like, don't we? I feel like we have some young receivers. What's his name? Tyler Boyd. Give him the opportunity to be your explosive receiver. I just feel like that's not going to be the instant impact that we need, and it's not receiver. I really think it's going to be Dalvin Cook who's going to give us that instant. You're right. Your round 1 pick should be that person that's going to give you immediate, make your team better immediately by adding them, and I think that's going to be Dalvin Cook. I feel like we have receivers who can be great. And like you said, that the injury issues with John Ross, like that is a concern. And to me, even more so, Leonard Fournette, as a running back at LSU, he was their offense. So you're trying to pick up a guy who ran the ball every game, like 100 to 200 yards every weekend. And it's like, how much is that going to wear on his body now as we pick him up?
Right.
I don't know about, I don't think so.
I feel like you said, Leonard Fournette, I almost feel like he kind of, in a sense, handicaps your offense. It's like the Bengals already struggle now with figuring out whether they want to be a power running team or a passing team. And it's like Leonard Fournette does not help that at all. Dalvin Cook does because he can do both. When you look at like the Pittsburgh Steelers, like Le'Veon Bell is so effective for them because he can allow them to do both. They can be a high passing attack, but then they can also run the ball with him. And I mean, of any team that was a power running kind of team back in the day, even the Steelers have made a transition to, allowing a back that comes out of the backfield that can catch the ball as well. So, I mean, why can't we do exactly the same thing? Just like you said, I think Dalvin Cook, to me, would have the most impact at 9.
Yes, for sure. And, like, that was an analogy comparing him to, like, Le'Veon Bell. Absolutely. Like, that's what you want. You want your running back to not only be able to run down the field, but also catch. Like, you can't beat that. And I think that that's what Dalvin Cook could bring to us. Like, let's open it up. Let's have a Le'Veon Bell ourselves.
Right.
Because that's great. You can catch it. You can run it. You can do everything.
Right.
And you, Dalvin.
So at 9, which pick do you think would make you the most upset? Like, if they picked a certain type of player or position, which one would make you the most upset?
A lineman, a defensive lineman. That would make me upset just because I feel like in that position, there are great linebackers that we can pick up and we don't have to draft. Like, we can pick them up in the offseason like we did. What's his name from the Cardinals? Like, we can pick up some linebackers. Like, you're not going to pick up a great back in the offseason. You got to draft. So that would make me upset if we pick somebody in a position that's on the line, like even cornerback. Like, don't pick those guys that you can pick in the offseason. You can pick a player that can be good. You're not going to find a great running back in the offseason. Draft.
Right. I totally agree. To me, if I had to say a particular player that they ended up picking at number 9 that would upset me, I think, like you said, any offensive lineman. But if they pick somebody, if they reach for like a defensive lineman, like a Taco Charlton or something like that, at number 9, I kind of would kind of look at them sideways if they did that. If they pick Leonard Fournette, I would probably be a little bit upset about that as well. But
I was upset about Leonard Fournette.
Right, yeah, Leonard Fournette, I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. I don't know. I just have a feeling about him. So to the next question, do you think the Bengals, it sounds like you kind of think they may go offense, but do you think they should go offense or defense in the first round?
I think we should go offense. Like I said, I think we have the players that can make our defense great again, like it was when we had Zimmer as our defensive coordinator. But I think we're working on that offense. We're trying to get our offense back to how it was working. I guess kind of, even though I don't care for Jay Gruden, our offense was working his last 2 years with us. So I think we're searching on how we're going to get that back on our offense, and that's why we need to draft offense. Like, I think we can make the defense click. We're getting back with the defense, but our offense needs to get back to where it was like 2012, 2013, was it? Yeah, probably 14 too. Like, we need to get back into that form and drafting our offense. We'll get an offensive player.
Right, I totally agree. I mean, when you look at the offseason, it seems like the most attention has been put to the defense. So you had some key departures, but you had guys in the wings like Andrew Billings who can replace Pecco. You also brought in Kevin Minter, like you said, at the linebacking position to replace Ray Maluga. So you already kind of, in a sense, upgraded the secondary. They signed the Ben Wickery guy. Why not take, some of that firepower and give Andy Dalton another weapon or something that he can use on offense that we desperately need? I mean, because we both saw last year that, this team basically depended on solely AJ Green and Tyler Eifert. And, there was a Brandon LaFell here and there was a Tyler Boyd there, but those aren't the type of guys that can really make that impact such as AJ Green at that time. I mean, maybe we can still see with Tyler Boyd going forward, but you have to give Andy as many weapons as possible. You're talking about Giovanni Bernard, who's another top weapon, who may not be available to start the season next year. He's coming back off of a knee injury. So, you have to give Andy more weapons. You have to give him the opportunity to put the Bengals offense in place. And, you look at, even with Eifert being out last year, the red zone was a huge area that was missing last year. There was just we weren't even able to convert anytime we got into the red zone. So I don't care what it is, whether it's a tight end, if they want to get OJ Howard, if they want to get Dalvin Cook, somebody that can help this offense is definitely what I'd like to see, with the exception of offensive linemen. I really don't think we need to go there with the offensive line. I think Andre Smith will work out just fine. And I think it's more key about the offensive line being able to grow together. So the last thing I think you want to do is just throw another guy in the mix out there. So I definitely agree with you. I think that they should go offense in the first round. So with that being said, I'll just have a couple of announcements. Next week, we're looking at having the draft roundtable announcement. And, I don't think you've met the other guys, but usually we have a couple other Bengals fans from Cincinnati. And one of them, his name is Renardo. Another one is Moody. We also have one named Cleve and Mark. And some of those guys will jump on. And usually, like every year before the draft, we kind of just do a pre-draft show where we just give our thoughts on what the Bengals could do, where we want them to kind of go. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably have one before the draft and then one recapping the draft just to see if we messed up. 2 years ago, we had the one with Cedric Ogbuehi, or however you say his name, and we all hated the pick. We just couldn't believe what happened. And then you saw the Jake Fisher in the next round. So hopefully we don't see anything like that this year. I have my fingers crossed, but hopefully we won't have to do that. But we'll also have, obviously, we'll have you on G with those guys. So it'll be pretty cool to see that happen. And then I also have Prime is being released. I know I have a couple fans that you guys love the whole Prime thing, where it's basically a formula that kind of gives you a sense of who the Bengals could pick in the upcoming draft. It hit on about 5 of the players last year, so I have that coming soon for you guys. And with that being said, we can go ahead and leave you guys with a Who Day, all day, every day, and especially on Sunday.
Happy Easter, guys.
Happy Easter, definitely. Happy holidays. You guys stay safe.
All right. Bye.
Always business, never personal. Here's the 3rd and 7, and McCarron goes down the field, and it's caught and breathes in for the touchdown.
Two things in life that suck: death, taxes, and 85 will always go.